Good morning and welcome to Valley News Now. I'm Adam Shalfo and this is Lisa Green. Lisa, thank you so much. What a wonderful Monday. Tough one for us Bears fans. We're talking about some cold temperatures today, but first let's just wallow in the pity a little bit. Bears lose on that Hail Mary. A couple of resident fans at the station.
Can't catch a break.
No, but you can catch Hail Marys if you're the Washington Commanders.
Apparently. Good for them.
Good for them. Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. At least some people are happy.
Yeah, all of my teams have struggled this year, and the Bears are, at least struggled yesterday, we'll say.
Well, one of the reasons we're doing this today is so you aren't struggling through winter, and a big part of that is being prepared, unlike the Bears, knowing what to expect. And so today is Winter Weather Awareness Week, and so that's where it all comes down to. Preparation starts with awareness.
That's right, and each state does this, and it depends on when winter weather, that's a tough tongue twister there, starts up in each state. So North Dakota's is this week, and we're starting off with just kind of talking about winter alerts and reminding folks, what they mean. You know the difference between a watch and a warning, right?
I think.
You think so?
I don't know if I feel comfortable with answering that on a pop quiz.
Okay, I should have grabbed my hot dish reference for that.
Okay.
Because the way I like to say it is a watch is, you've got all the ingredients for the hot dish. You have the bag of tater tots, you have the ground beef, but you don't have a hot dish yet, you just have the ingredients.
Okay.
And that's what a watch is for. Okay.
And the warning is, hey, the oven's preheating.
It's already cooked. It's coming out of the oven. You better be ready for it, is what the warning is. So it's come together and it's happening, or it's just about to happen. So that's the difference. And it's the same for summer alerts and for winter alerts, just in that level of concern between watches and warnings. And so for winter, obviously we're talking more blizzard and winter storm and those kind of warnings, but we're also talking about cold weather warnings too. And there was one thing I want to touch on, just because it is new this year, and hopefully we can read this well, but the National Weather Service has gone through a process of trying to simplify some of their alerts that they put out, some of their products, and this is specifically for extreme cold. And we don't have to worry about this yet. We're probably more focused on snow earlier than we see these kind of warnings, but still I want you to be aware. What's happening here is they are going to consolidate wind chill alerts with extreme cold. And the thought process is cold, whether it's the air temperature or the wind chill making it feel like the temperature is cold. So extreme cold watch and a wind chill watch is now just an extreme cold watch. And an extreme cold warning and a wind chill warning, now just an extreme cold warning. And the one that's going to be most noticeable, I think, for a lot of people is that wind chill advisory. We have so many of those issued during the winter season. It's no longer going to be called that. It's going to be a cold weather advisory.
So just really making things a little more simple.
Trying to.
There's the actual temperature, and then there's how cold it feels. But when you're out there, you're just trying to get to your car, you're trying to make it into the grocery store from your automobile, whatever. Cold is cold.
Well, you want to know what it feels like, right? So whether
feels cold. Is cold. Very cold.
It doesn't matter if the temperature is 30 below and there's zero wind, or if the temperature is 10 below and the wind makes it feel like it's 30 below. It's still going to be tough on your body when you're out there. So that's something to keep in mind as we're going through the season, and we'll be sure to kind of explain that as we go along too, especially when we get our first cold weather advisory instead of wind chill advisory. We'll go over that as well. But I did want to just quickly, just kind of let you know what each of these means. So that extreme cold warning, again, this is based on what it feels like, whether it's air temperature or wind. And for us here in the upper Midwest, you see that very deep red. That's the criteria for that. That's changed slightly too for some of our advisories. This is the extreme cold warning again. 40 below would be the extreme cold warning. That would mean our feels like temperature.
That is indeed extreme and cold.
And it may include the effects of the wind. So, so that's the warning. And thank you to the National Weather Service for providing this graphic.
And that's not going to be anytime soon, right?
I hope not. I hope not. I'm not seeing it
Just seeing that graphic is chills my bones.
And this is the cold weather advisory we were just talking about. That is replacing the wind chill advisory. And so this is, kind of advisories are a step down from warnings. It's just letting you know this might impact your life and could be hazardous if you don't take it seriously. And so again, this is the apparent feels like temperature, and it may or may not include the effects of the wind. And so the advisory is for 30 below zero, and you see that includes all of North Dakota and northern Minnesota and parts of South Dakota. We have a higher threshold for this because we are, of course, used to cold weather in this part of the world. Meanwhile, farther south in other parts of the Midwest, the threshold's a lot lower because they're not used to that kind of weather, if that makes sense for you.
And just to ask a clarifying question here, so is this different from how it was, or now it is?
There was a change, and I'm trying to remember. I think it was a difference between 25 below and 30 below.
Okay.
So it's just a minor change, but it's still a change from what the wind chill advisory threshold was.
Okay.
So this is a little bit lower.
But either way, it's based on basically what it feels like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Regardless, yeah, if there's wind, and it makes it feel like 30 below, or if the temperature itself is just 30 below,
okay,
that's when we get a cold weather advisory. So
okay.
I'm going to have to remember to say that too. I'm so used to saying wind chill advisory, but it is a little bit different for this season. So that's what we're looking at for that. So again, just be ready for it, and we'll continue to go over this as the winter season goes along. And we'll of course talk more about Winter Weather Awareness Week as the week goes on as well. But I did want to touch on where we kind of stand with that winter outlook.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, it all starts with La Nina. We've been talking about La Nina for months. So just a quick kind of reminder of what La Nina is. You got to go all the way down to the equatorial Pacific. And we, of course, have trade winds from the east in that part of the world. We get the westerlies up here, but around the equator and near the equator, it's the easterlies. And so when those are stronger, they tend to push that warmer surface water west, more central and western Pacific, and that leads to upwelling or colder water rising to the surface in the eastern Pacific. Okay, and this can have an impact on our weather patterns and eventually, of course, our jet stream pattern as well. And so that affects our pattern typically. Now, it doesn't happen every year, but typically we see that polar jet kind of have that northwesterly flow.
And that's what gets us.
And we oftentimes see that colder than average La Nina.
And you can see it's just going right to Fargo just about here.
There's a very strong signal for colder than average temperatures here in this part of the world when there is a La Nina. Here's the little caveat. The La Nina is looking weaker. So that could introduce, a little bit of wild card into the whole forecast here. This is a lot of words. We'll just go over here really quickly. So we're still in neutral conditions. We've been in that for a while. Again, and so is El Nino Southern Oscillation. It includes going back and forth between El Nino and La Nina. And we are expecting La Nina. A 75% chance of transitioning to La Nina somewhere in November to January. And then a 51% chance back to neutral between February and April.
That could be huge.
Which tells us that it's looking less likely that it's going to be a long-lived event, which is good for getting out of what could be below average temperatures. And here's something that's interesting. Ahead of a La Nina winter, we oftentimes experience a very warm, dry fall.
And that's exactly what we've been feeling. So very good. Interesting.
So classic right now. The key here is that abrupt transition to colder temperatures.
And I remember you and Russ have kind of been telling us that the cliff is kind of coming.
We're going to drop off that cliff at some point. Looking like to be more into November. Obviously, it's almost end of October at this point. But more into November. And maybe in that second part of November. Because right now it's still looking pretty mild in the first couple of weeks at the moment.
And do we know what that drop-off is going to look like? Is it going to be like, 40s, 40s, 40s? Negative.
Good. Well, it's a good question. It's, right now we're above average, and 49 is our average high in Fargo on this date. Of course, that drops as you go into the season, the average high does. So, it's when we start to see below average temperatures start taking over that we're going to be looking out for, that transition. As far as weather is concerned, of course, there's an official status you have to reach with temperatures in the Pacific to officially be classified as La Nina. But then, the impacts from that affect our weather here. And just one other thing, there is that greater likelihood of a weaker La Nina, which means that, other climate influencers can come into play and cause some issues with, having that classic type season. With that said, here's that graph we like to look at here, that El Nino, La Nina probability graph. And so this is where we are now. SON, that means September, October, November. So that's the 3-month season that climatologists use to kind of call seasons here. And the blue bars mean La Nina, the chances of La Nina. The gray bar means neutral, and red bar means El Nino. So that chance of La Nina during this season was 60%. we're looking at, remember I mentioned the 75%, that's in that November, December, January timeframe. So very, very likely we will transition and stay in La Nina through each of these seasons, and then notice what happens here, February, March, April.
It really is trying to be neutral.
Yeah, the chances for neutral starts going up.
And that's great, because really I feel like February and March,
we're done.
That's when I start to feel the winter fatigue.
Yes.
Where I'm like, all right, I've gotten my skiing out of the way.
I've had the fun.
I've watched every movie I own.
Sure.
How about a ray of sunshine?
There you go.
All jokes aside, it's the length of the winter that does get a lot of people, and so that is very promising.
That would be nice for folks who, want to get out of that. And one other thing to note with a La Nina, in this kind of March, April, May timeframe, chances for precipitation are a little higher historically. So that's a good thing going into the spring months after we're kind of we've been talking about drought here. We've been dealing with drought. We really need to replenish some soil moisture. So that's also a little positive.
Absolutely.
If we're coming out of La Nina still, we might be seeing more moisture at that point in time. Could be more wintry events if temperatures are cool enough in that late winter and early spring, but that'll be something that we'll have to watch out for, and we'll see how it plays out. So one more graphic here just to show you what the official outlook is. So this is, again, months, or I should say seasons in the world of climatology are classified in 3-month periods. So December, January, February. And, we know that winter lasts longer than that around here, but this is the official outlook for those 3 kind of classic winter months. And you can see where we're at. This is blue, indicating that we have greater chances of below normal temperatures. So that's the official forecast right now. And the precip outlook is not looking we're not getting a good signal here. We're in that equal chances category, meaning we have equal chances of being above average, below average, or right at average for precipitation for that December through February time frame. So, and that's always tends to be the case with La Nina, that we experience that stronger signal of temperatures and stronger impact from temperatures than precipitation. But obviously, we're looking at things starting to cool down no matter what. And even if we, don't get into, some of those, coldest scenarios, we're still looking at, getting winter storms and getting a winter that's going to be somewhere between likely what happened last winter, which was really warm, relatively speaking, and the previous winter, which was
super
cold and snowy. Will likely be somewhere in the middle of those two.
I think we can handle that.
I think we can totally handle that. We're tough upper Midwesterners here.
Yeah, just get a good coat. I see the electric coats, the electric gloves.
I've heard of those.
Yeah, I've never gotten those. I'm an old school guy. But, I do think that last winter was almost like a little disappointing. I do enjoy
a little bit
more snow. If it's going to be cold, I want a little snow. And there's so many fun things to do in the snow, so much fun you can have with winter. And so if it's going to be miserably cold, I at least want some snow with it. But I don't know, I'm kind of looking forward to this winter a little bit more now, seeing that there could be some more snow. It should be a little colder than last winter, because that was just a weird, extended fall kind of thing.
It was very warm.
I didn't hate it, but I want to get out there on some of the cross-country ski paths, maybe build a snowman.
And that's great, for businesses and folks who love winter weather. People who want to get out and go ice fishing, want to hit the ski slopes.
Want to build an igloo with your kids.
Yeah, go snowmobiling, all that stuff. So there's a better chance at being able to do all of that for a longer period of time this winter than last.
Well, very good. Lisa, always enjoyed these updates. Is there anything else we should get into before we let you go?
No, just enjoy today. Today's going to be kind of our last 60 to 70 degree day for a while. The rest of the week, the outlook's looking a little cooler, closer to average actually. We're still well above average today. So get out and enjoy it. And of course, you can check the forecast on the VNL Weather app.
I might have to make that our new slogan. I like that. Enjoy today.
Enjoy
today. That's all for now on Valley News Now. Stick around. We got a special guest coming up in just a few minutes, and we'll see you next time.